Hi there, what is, and welcome to the new live stream on the Uruguayan Heroes YouTube channel. And today, finally, we are going live and with the prospect of Uruguay playing in just a few days. First against Chile, then against Ecuador, the start of the 2026 World Cup qualifiers, which will be a lot different than what we've used to be in the last two. Basically the way we've known the format and the qualification spots. But anyway, it will be exciting because Uruguay got a new manager and have called up a squad which has raised some eyebrows. But for sure, we have to be behind it and let's have a look at how it all pans out. So, Alessandro, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me as usual. No, you're right. I mean, Friday, it's creeping up on us. And you're right. It is a bit weird how the qualifiers this time around, it feels a bit deflated because there's less pressure and less tension.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, with what's happening with Bielsa and the drama behind the scenes, the tension all of a sudden has come up in another way.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, I spoke to Diego Montalfano. I'm not sure if you know him, but
Mhm.
he's a journalist and he covers mainly Peru, or not only Peru, but he supports Peru. And he had me on to preview the qualifiers and to talk about Uruguay. And we were talking as well that it's like it's different because normally you come into the qualifiers and it's immediately okay. There are 18 games, but the need to perform is there for sure because yeah, I mean, these are important games, all of them. But now it seems like it's there's more possibility of to allow less result orientated or result based selecting and more room to let grow something of a process, a new team or new players growing into the team, which I don't particularly really like. But
It's like the European. We got a bit of the European
yeah, a little bit.
qualifier in there now. It's
A little bit, but yeah, I mean, we can get. I mean, we've all seen the squad, so I'm not gonna like name them 25 names, but there are some names in there, and there are also some omissions, especially which initially worried me, but now coming to understand what Bielsa's point of view is basically is, and how he is, well, even less flexible probably than I expected, and I didn't know a lot of him. Obviously, I knew who he is and what he's about, but speaking to people which are really familiar with his ideology, he really isn't flexible when it comes to his approach, his type of players, and his profile of players, and that's probably why the likes of Coates and Diarra Buena, who based on merit should be on the squad, are not in the squad because they don't fit his style of play, his profile of the positions that they're in. I mean, how are you experiencing this?
it's like we've ordered a pizza. We know exactly the toppings that are going to be on the pizza. We know exactly what kind of flavor it's going to taste like. We know where we're getting it. We get the pizza and we complain about the pizza. I mean, this is sort of the we have to it's how much we as fans, the media and the general AUF can tolerate all of this because it is a lot and we know it's a lot. We know this is someone with this type of history who comes in and changes things and things have to be done his way. We've seen it at Leeds, we've seen it when he was in France, when he was in Spain at Bilbao. This is the way it is. And so that's why I'm willing to see how things take shape on the field first before I come after the manager or criticize the manager, because I think that's only fair. We need to see what's on the field first. And then if we see on the field we're having a goal scoring problem, we can't finish in the back of the net, then I'll go more on the side of, oh well, might have helped if we could sub in, I don't know, Suarez for 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the last game. But we'll see what happens. All of this though is radical. It's being met with a lot of resistance because we're seeing resignations. At the
Yeah.
complejo, the guy who runs the complejo Celeste has resigned. Alberto Pan has resigned, the medical doctor. He's been there ever since Tavares started. A
Yeah.
lot's happening, and a lot of people are also saying things in the media. I don't know what your thoughts on that are as well with the news reporters.
Yeah, I mean, I have not kept like I've not followed everything um, how I would have liked to, but yeah, for sure, I've seen these debates and I mean these people, and I'm one of them, by the way. But I'm trying to like revise a little bit of how I thought about it. That are going against Bielsa and some of the decisions he made. But what I found bizarre is the press conference he did before the list the call up the squad was announced, and basically stirring it up. And I mean, I have all respect for Bielsa, and he's a really knowledgeable man, not when it comes to football, but also when it comes to these kind of these things in the media and how he believes journalists should or should not act. And I mean, Tavares had a little bit of this as well. He weighed in on how journalists should or should not act. But it's interesting for sure. What I would say though is you mentioned quickly Suarez. That's one of the things I'm disappointed with. I can when Guates is not there, I feel some disappointment because I think Guates deserves more. But I understand it from the point of view of Bielsa and the way he wants to play. The same with Darbuena. I get it. But with Suarez, what I don't understand is obviously Darwin is going to be our starting number 9, for sure. But Maxi is there. He's not there to start the games. I'm sure he's not, Obviously, he's a backup and you never know what happens, but he's not there. And when you talk about a backup striker who comes in maybe to change the game, then I would always pick Suarez ahead of Maxi Gomez. And even so, that's for me, that it doesn't add up. And also with Maxi, we can talk about you can talk about Maxi at one point being a valid option for the national team, but that's not been the case for 2 or 3 years already. And having said that, he's not even played more than 20 or 30 minutes this season even. So it's just strange, that decision. But that's just the way it's going to be, I think. I mean, there are some decisions there we would not agree with, but we're going to live with it, and we're going to see what's going to happen. And that's it, I guess. Yeah.
You mentioned Maxi Gomez, and I'm right. It's so hard. It's multiple things. I mean, as fans, it's number one, it's our heart because the attachment to these players, Suarez, what they did in 2011 and the World Cups that followed. It's so hard. That's what we know. That it's like seeing almost like way like a family member being left out of the family reunion all of a sudden. Like it's just it's a shock. And you go to Thanksgiving dinner or you go to Christmas dinner, and all of a sudden your favorite uncle or grandfather is no longer attending. And so things feel weird. I get that, but then when you separate from the heart and you look at it logically, we have been so used to these call-up lists being done under this criteria where historical significance and what has been given to the national team over a sustained period of time comes into play. A bit of whether you're still active and still producing comes into play. And then what value you bring into the team. Whereas now we are starting from the other end. We're starting, this is the system. This is the tactical plan. And now I want the players who only fit that puzzle, the players who only fit that tactical plan in this call-up list. And so that's why we're now seeing players like Guates, for example, who on merit, you're right, Guates should be there. I mean, on merit, this call-up list, I don't think it looks radically different, but it looks a little bit different. Yeah. Guates is there, Suarez is there. Even you could even argue Muslera for a third goalie because he's actually been doing decently well for Galatasaray recently. Yeah. So I don't know, but those are my thoughts.
No, I fully get what you're saying. It's like like you said, we have this view of how a Uruguay team or a Uruguay squad is composed and what the criteria of this is, but we have to divorce ourselves from these ideas because it's completely different indeed. And that's for me. It took some time to adjust to this, but now, like I said before, I get the logic behind it. And I mean, probably this squad he's still searching, obviously, for what he wants. And there are also some injuries with players who probably we would have liked to be in there. So I think he's still searching. So it's way too early, obviously, to have a kind of a really genuine judgment of this. So, yeah. And we also have to realize that what we're going to see of Uruguay this week and next week on the Tuesday against Ecuador, yeah, we cannot expect a lot still, because a Bielsa team, having spoken to people that support the team that was managed by Bielsa, things will take a lot of time sometimes and will be frustrating as hell. And for him, it will be even more difficult to implement his ideas on this national team basis. And that's why he's also been working really closely with players, sending them tapes of. I mean, I heard Santiago Bueno, and I mean, he would probably not be an exception. He said that Bielsa's coaching staff or Bielsa spoke with him and sent him or watched all of his games last season and sent their conclusions or their advice, whatever, based on this. So I mean, it's really thorough what they are doing, and Bielsa is obviously known for this. You know, El Loco, the way he prepares and the way he like really digs into every detail of the game to get the advantages for his team. So yeah, these are things we all have to take into account, and that's why we also should not be premature, which I sometimes have been. But with this, it's a process for sure, and that's the way he's approaching it as well. Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
No, it's going to be a long process. You nailed it on the head. I remember when Alonso came in, I said, okay, give it time. It's going to be. I was concerned that how much change should you make as a manager, knowing that the World Cup is less than a year away.
yeah,
And so I was wrestling with that. But this time, he's got the entire cycle, and
no, for sure.
you've got less pressure because there's less need to win games. And at the end of the day, listen, if you're not in what is it, the top 7 that make it, or what I think the 7th place is the repechaje on paper. We got to be in that 7. That's not even an argument. So if we don't make that 7 for whatever reason, I won't even feel disappointed because I'll be like, this is such a disaster. Who cares? If you're not in the 7, you don't deserve it. Forget it. Because at the end of the day, after 7, who's left? Who's going to be in those bottom 3? Bolivia, Venezuela, and then it'll be between Peru and Chile. I don't know. Let's say, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying for sure. Yeah, yeah. No, the Alonso situation was completely different, and I think to quickly on that, I mean, he did what he had to do. I mean, that team was there performing really badly, but we all knew the quality that was in the squad. So he just got them together and basically got them to like play their hearts out and press high against teams which obviously were inferior to us. So yeah.
But the more I hear about comments being made now by historical figures in the media, such as Suarez and Godin, who said it's very important that the historical figures and legacy players in the team are heard and their opinion and advice is gathered, the more I really am confident, and I say this without any concrete knowledge, that Alonso failed because he gave into those pressures to listen too much to some of those legacy players and to play.
Sure.
And I could feel it. I could feel like playing Godin in the World Cup against Korea, starting with a back 5 against Portugal.
No, I mean, I mean, we're probably gonna.
We'll get back on it.
But,
yeah.
But the thing was, I remember when the squad came out and Caceres' inclusion was excused by but he's part of the historic ones and he's gonna give some experience or whatever. But I never bought this, and I mean, we went along with it because the how do you say, the morale was high and the feeling was good. But these were things that were alarming already. And yeah, I mean, Godin was probably symbolic for how this tournament went, his inclusion and his prominence in the team. But yeah, okay. First of all, guys or girls, whatever who's watching, thanks for being here. 18 people already. Really appreciate that. That's a good turnout for sure. So yeah, leave your comments in the chat. Maybe having a different opinion on a topic we are discussing, or maybe something completely different that you just want to address. You're free to do whatever you want in the chat. It's really nice to see you all here. So George Trumillo, who already came in with a comment before the stream started. I mean, that's dedication. That's really good. Nunez did my Newcastle United squad dirty. But if anyone was going to do it, I was glad it was him. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're probably going to talk a lot about the national team right now and what's coming, what's ahead in these coming, 10 days, basically. But yeah, I mean, Darwin, his last 2 weeks have been much better. He didn't score against Aston Villa, and he really should have, to be honest. But the goals against Newcastle, they really give him some credit, basically. And yeah, I mean,
better link-up play.
Oh yeah, I mean, he did quite well. I mean, Darwin always have his clumsy moments, but he did quite well, I think, as well. Yeah, and the assist, obviously. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if it was meant to, but it was a good assist, and he was unlucky with the finishes. The first 2, I mean, the last one. Okay, I know. I think it was there was some deflection, a slight deflection, and these things obviously matter when it comes at this speed, but. It looked bad, but overall his game was good, and
you could tell he did the Zoom call with Bielsa because he was offside a lot less.
Okay, yeah.
Darwin Nunez, those 2 goals against Newcastle, if that was last year, he's offside on one of those goals.
But what I hate still about it, I mean, I get VAR and how it improves, but these tight margins. When I watched the Arsenal United game and Garnacho scored the goal, and yeah, it was offside eventually, with this arm and whatever.
Mhm.
But these things, I still hate it, about VR, because you have this brilliant moment, and I'm not a United fan. It was a good moment, There was a good quick counter attack from
Mhm.
United or transition, and Garnacho scored, and then it's all called off, and such tiny margins, and yeah, it's incredible.
A millimeter, a
Yeah, it's
millimeter.
really incredible. But I mean, I'm not sure how to fix that problem. But yeah, that's just the way it is, I guess. Okay. Don't let the media turn you against El Loco. No, no, for sure. No. I mean, that's for me. I'm not sure how you are experiencing it, Alessandro. But when I watch, or when I don't watch, I mostly read Uruguay media or just journalists and prominent journalists. Yeah, obviously you listen, but the I'm long past the point. I probably was there when I started out in Uruguay football, like reading about it, but I'm long past the point of reading a journalist and like believing that they know, or their opinion is like more worth than you or me or another fan, because often it's just not the case. And so yeah, you respect it, but some of the opinions that came out based on a few comments, which are mostly also misquoted from Bielsa, was just obscene. Was weird. And there's no need also to create this tension already when we are just so early in the cycle.
You had asked me about the press conference, I think, privately. I didn't get a chance to see it live. I was busy, but I rewatched the majority, I say 90% of it,
Yeah,
the other day. And the way some of the news reporters were combative to him and misquoting him as well. I understand there's a perspective that, yes, I do buy into that. The media needs to sell headlines. They need to do that. But these are the same news reporters that go out there on Twitter and they say, "Oh, La Celeste, everything for La Celeste. I always Uruguay first." And then you do that and you make a comment like that that's detrimental, and you know that's going to disrupt the attitude and the feeling towards Bielsa. Come on, you
yeah,
can't. Don't be out there. Don't be out there. Putting your hand on the crest and saying anything for this team, this and that, and then at the same time letting the match. Be honest with
no.
yourself.
But what I hate about it the most is that these same journalists, and I mean, I'm not trying to bash them because they're all, I mean, they're journalists, and I'm sure they do a good job on most of the things they do. But the contrast between what we are seeing now and when Tavares was in charge, obviously Tavares deserves respect, but some people just never left his backside, and never stopped defending him and you can still defend someone or whatever, but as a journalist you still have to be objective and call out the mistakes someone is making, or deal out criticism if it's warranted. And with Tavares, I mean, certainly the last 5 years, 6 years, but some would even argue the last 10 years, there were so many things that Tavares needed to be criticized on, but only the fans did so.
That rot of not being able to call out people in the national team, that little rot started and that little seed was planted in the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, where a lot of people were like, "Oh, why did Tavares should have been criticized for what, in my opinion, were poor tactics against Colombia in the round of 16 match," and also the way that the Suarez thing was handled. And I actually think that we could have been a little bit more critical for Suarez's, in my opinion, an inexcusable behavior, because he did cost Uruguay a deep run in that tournament. And that's, I think, the only stain in what is a wonderful legacy, arguably the player who's given the most to this national team in history. Um, and then that grew, and it became a lot more in 2016 when we were knocked out in the first round of the Copa America in 2016, the one in the United States. And nobody called out Tavares. Nobody called. I understand. Okay, yes, he's on a wheelchair. He's riding around. We maybe feel some sympathy, but that's a disaster with that squad to be losing to Mexico and then Venezuela. That was the moment where it's like, I think if this was any other national team, the coach would be on the border of being fired. But then we've turned around. We had good results in 2018. In 2018, we had a sleeper group. We were always going to top that group regardless. It was an easy group. We went through, and then 2018 should have been the end of Tavares, in my opinion. But we kept it going, and we stuck it around for too long, and we let that rot grow and grow, and then when things came to a head recently with when he was fired, then the straw finally broke. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on the situation?
No, it was. I mean, for me, I mean, you back then certainly when 2016, I was like, I mean, I knew Suarez basically, and before I supported Uruguay or I followed Uruguay, but then I was into this account. I started 2016, so I got more and more deep into it. But I was really green when it came to this. So then I did an article about, I mean, on my own WordPress site about the tournament and like the two sides of Tavares, just praising him for what he did, but also saying that this is not acceptable, you know. And I remember La Celeste blog picked it up and they posted on their website, and but my view was quite balanced, you know, because I wasn't that knowledgeable about the whole subject and about all the context and the history of it. But then I remember this article being posted and seeing the comments on the Last Essay book and getting all this background to a lot of stuff and seeing people that back then were already so, I mean, so angry about what is going on and so frustrated also with it not being called out and with seemingly Tavares being untouchable. And I mean, I think in 22 or 2018, I mean, and back and after that, I got into that state as well. But it's really something that's been playing for a long time. So I get. I mean, you're probably have experienced this as well. The frustration was there big time, and to now see like this completely shift. And I'm talking about the media again, obviously, when would then kept their mouth shut for the most part, to then completely shift and go against someone who's just in his job and who obviously has some questionable, not questionable, but he has his own ideas, and who's also not Uruguayan, and who also doesn't have the links. I mean, Tavares had all the journalists on strings, and probably whenever they went against him, they would probably these links would be cut off for the media outlets that they were representing. So that's a big thing. Obviously, that was the big thing about behind it, I guess.
You said he's not Uruguayan. That's the biggest cognitive
Also, yeah,
block
obviously,
for
yeah,
a lot of these people. The biggest cognitive block. It's former players have come out and said, you can tell by the way they're talking. Other coaches have come out and said, listen, the person who should be coaching this national team is someone who should be Uruguayan. But that's the trade-off. You wanted a European level caliber coach,
yeah.
but there was nobody from Uruguay who fit that bill. And so you have to either,
Almada, no. I mean, Almada, no, but he's. I
but
mean,
without European experience.
I'm joking.
That's
a
the
little.
thing. But he was the candidate. But I'm talking like someone who's been the highest, like the Premier League, the Champions League, like Europa League, like been there, you know. Coaching some of the biggest games. I saw a clip the other day of Bilbao absolutely demolishing Ferguson's United in the Europa League, the way they were playing. Ridiculous. But someone from that, with that sort of pedigree, you want that, but nobody we have currently fits that bill. So either we forget that and we go with somebody like Almada and understanding that, or we have to sacrifice a little bit and say, okay, we got to go for somebody who's now Uruguayan. So we go for somebody from there. So obviously we took the second choice there. So now we just gotta. I wish people, obviously journalists and stuff, are not going to have that level of reasoning or that process of reasoning, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah, you would believe that it's not. I mean, you wouldn't like go that. I mean, it's quite pretty low, I believe. You know, it's like, well, okay. Let's get into a few comments. Already a lot of comments getting in there, so I appreciate it, guys. So Cafecito Crew Gaming, I think it's Miguel La Rosa. I'm pretty sure it is. Appreciate it, man, that you're here. I understand the end game. 39-year-old striker, 6-year-old center back can't be relied up and can't be relied upon in 2026. And that's true. I mean, that's the thing. That's. I mean, someone told me as well, who's quite knowledgeable about it, is that basically Bielsa only would like maybe one or two in the 30-32 region in his starting squad. That's basically what he wants because of the physical demands his type of game requires. So, and yeah, I mean, I think we have to like resonate with the idea that this is gonna be the way it is, and Suarez has to do it as well. I mean, I get Suarez. Yeah, please
I
go
get
on.
no. I sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but I get that. First of all, Rochette is the oldest player in the squad at 30 years old.
Yeah,
The average age in this squad is like low 23. Like that is shocking. But I understand the argument. 39-year-old, 36-year-old. Yes, we can't rely on that in 2026. However, there is still some value in having those type of players in the background, mentoring a new generation coming in, and then having that transition go over. That's how most national teams
No,
have done it slowly. I think that is the better approach, in my opinion.
yeah, and the thing is, so I think Suarez, when you listen to him, he really believe. I mean, he doesn't want to be there to play every minute of the game. That's not what. I mean, 2 years ago he was there, and maybe a year ago as well, but he's not there anymore, and he knows that. But I think Bielsa, I'm not sure. I mean, this is just guessing, but I think the conflict for Bielsa is that although Suarez, I think we all know his value to the team in his dressing room and his leadership for young players, and obviously the role model he is. But I think for Bielsa, um, it's also it's also difficult to have someone in the squad who has such a history, I mean, one of the biggest players Uruguay's ever produced, who also probably at some point maybe wants to play, because we also know Suarez. He says he wants to add value also on a different way of playing, but Suarez is Suarez,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can't sit on a bench for 90 minutes for 2 weeks. That's not him. So I think also, although I love the guy to an enormous amount, there also have to be some calming down for Suarez now. The way he's calling out on social media, and I think it's unnecessary. I mean, it's not gonna bring him anything, I guess. I mean, it's
He
bringing him some like public. Yeah, I don't know how to say it, but yeah.
I'll call him out. And I hate to say this because I really like Suarez, but it's immature, it's unnecessary, and it's a bit. I would expect somebody with that status in the national team and knowing how much of a referente or reference point he is for younger players, he should be conducting himself a lot in a lot more, or at least don't say anything, but to knowingly and willingly go onto Lugano's ESPN program and then make those comments after the list. That is, and then also with the shirt celebration and then the Instagram story, and then that is a bit. I think that's a bit too much.
No, I agree. Yeah, it was a little bit. Although I did like it when it happened, but after that, I mean, thinking about no ramifications, obviously, but the way the impact it has, or the way it makes him look, it's not.
There was a line there, and him going like that with his shirt and doing the celebration, I think was just before the line. What crossed the line for me was the Instagram story, and it said "SWAT 9 respect," winky face.
Because that's also. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't need to do that because he knows. And I mean, it's also so personal towards Bielsa because he knows that the public opinion is that we all love him, and I mean, we all know the worth he has.
Then he's not putting the national team first.
No, that's you could say that. Yeah, you could say that. That's true. Yeah, yeah. It's a weird one, but I think soon he will do probably an interview or a good interview.
I think he'll come out and realize what's going on, and I believe he will come to that, but. His own actions and his own comments are actually furthering him from the national team as opposed to bringing him closer.
Oh, absolutely.
Cavani, at this point, given everything that's happened behind the scenes, is closer to the national team than Suarez.
But the problem is, I mean, he's not scoring.
No, he's not. He's not. But I'm just saying in Bielsa's mind.
I know what you're saying. I mean,
it's just
Cavani's demeanor overall is probably better in this situation.
It's just what doesn't help him is that he had come out months ago and commented on the state of play in Brazil and said, "Oh, the level is really too high and it's very much physically demanding and taxing on my body, and it's hard for me to see." And there was rumors that he was going to retire, and all of a sudden to say under the same breath that I then want to go play for the national team doesn't really check out if you're Bielsa, because they okay, here's somebody who says they don't want to play at the highest or is struggling to even keep up with the high intensity of Brazil, and they want to all of a sudden play an international tournament or international qualifier.
Yeah, no, it's no, it's never a dull day, when you go national team. Okay, so Agavasito Group Gaming, talking about obviously the way Bielsa probably is gonna go with excluding the Suarez and Coates, who will be 39, 36, but he also says I just wish it was done with a little more heart and tact, also because they can buy us just a little time for this sub-20 gen to bloom. Yeah, but I get what you're saying, but I don't think that's Bielsa's way, obviously. I mean, Bielsa is like really methodical, and he doesn't really care about, obviously, the way something comes across. So, yeah.
I mean, who cares? We just set up a testimonial like we did with Forlan, get everybody in the Centenario and say goodbye and hold hands and sing Kumbaya. We don't need to. We can't be using these qualifier games as goodbye or farewells.
No, no, that's true. I mean, hopefully it will. I would just say it will transpire to this, or yeah, I hope so. Yeah. So World Cup will be in 2026. We need to start trying players who can play in 3 years. Ismail, Amangairas, Rifuar. Yeah, absolutely. And for some part, you can see this in the squad. The players that are being called up, like Santiago Bueno, for example. And he's not the only one. Franco Israel, for sure, who is he would fit the profile of a Bielsa goalkeeper, but he is not playing at the highest level, and he's never played yet. So that's a difficult one. What I would say though is we do need to see this, but still I don't really agree with some of the decisions he's made. For example, by choosing for Sebastian Cáceres ahead of some other players. I mean, I like Emiliano Martinez, and I know he's someone who's like popular among the Uruguay fans at the moment. We also have to realize these rumors about him going to Everton or to West Ham were just complete bollocks. And I mean, I probably knew that from the. I mean, first I kind of had this hope, but then this is nothing real. So he's playing for Midtjylland in the Danish league, which is fine, but he would. I think it's quite weird to see him being called up and someone like Torreira not. But maybe, I mean, we're gonna see, because also Torreira probably fits quite well in the way Bielsa can set up and he can. So yeah, but we will have to see about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Gaston Cetrangolo, how do you feel about Nandes being back in the squad? I mean, I think this question probably comes up every stream, and it's normal, because it's like it's a hot topic, and certainly now when he's back in the national team. But for me, I'm not in a position to talk freely about that, because I don't know all the details about the situation, and we all don't know it basically, because it's not being revealed. It's been resolved basically because he can go into the country and can represent Uruguay, but I'm not sure of all the details. I mean, if it's true what is being said, what the allegations about, if the allegations are really true, proven 100%, for me, you should never wear the Uruguay top again. Absolutely no way. But I cannot say it with certainty. But even having this kind of nuance, or basically withholding a little bit, brings up like this critique from people, because I mean, even the mention of something this being possible should makes them condemn a certain someone who does or maybe has done this. So it's a difficult one to discuss, because I mean, Alessandro, maybe you can take over from there, because it's a difficult one for me.
Everything you've just said is sort of what's on my mind as well. Maybe they know details that we do not know. It's hard for us to comment because I believe the legal cases are still ongoing. It seems like it's working towards a resolution. If it comes out and and he is guilty of what he has done, then like you said, he should never represent the national team again. But in the court of law, it's innocent until proven guilty.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think they're applying the same thing to the national team as well, I guess.
No. I mean, Gaston, you should have added that at the end. Then we wouldn't get into this discussion again. But no, not joking aside, he said. I guess I was asking about him as a player and how he fits in the current team.
Yeah. Well,
so that's a more comfortable question. No,
well, that makes it a lot easier for us.
No, for sure. But I mean, Nandes is a good player. I mean, of course he is. I mean, in the qualifiers, the last few qualifiers he played, he was brilliant. I mean, you remember his energy against the Colombia game, or before the one, especially in Colombia game, he struggled a little bit with. I think it wasn't his Luis Diaz, obviously.
Yeah.
But he did well eventually. But whether he will be playing right back or not, I don't know. I mean, his position in Cagliari is obviously way more advanced, but you would think that he's there for the right back spot.
Well, he's a warrior, and he offers utility to a coach, so that puts him above other players. And by utility, I mean you could play him as a right back, or you can play in midfield, and that is so valuable for a coach to have that sort of tactical flexibility with a player.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's obviously a typical kind of player that's a coach's dream, because of the versatility he has, and also the way he always gives you a six. That's one thing with Nandes. He will never drop to a level where you say that's unacceptable, and that's something we cannot have anymore, because we've seen that for me too many times in the last few years, and also we've seen it too many times without repercussions, uh, because they were still being called up and even being played above players that were more deserving. So that's something. Hopefully, we're gonna see with Bielsa even more. I accept the fact that he has a certain way of playing, and he believes that certain players fit this profile, and he will be pretty stubborn in this. But I would believe, or I would hope, that it's more merit based than we've seen under the previous two coaches, because that was so frustrating to see. Absolutely, really frustrating for me.
Well, I don't think it'll be merit based. I think it'll be how do you best fit into my tactical system. So I guess tactical.
Okay, no, I agree, but probably he will have for some positions. Maybe he has one in mind, and not a lot more. But for sure, I mean, I think he's gonna compose a squad of players that are all suitable to a certain position, a certain profile. So, for example, I mean, we've seen this with Ficino being played ahead of Torreira, or maybe ahead of Arambari, who sometimes should have come in. We're in the squad, or we're called up, or sometimes we're not even called up. I hope on the Bielsa we will get to see more of these players getting a shot when they're deserving, and certainly when a player is underperforming on the current team. Um, so, like, some managers just have these players that they are keep playing, and fans going mad for it. I mean, you are being as a Liverpool fan, I'm sure you've seen this plenty of times throughout the years, because me following Liverpool closely, I've seen this as well. But it's basically normal for every club fan, and now every manager has this. But that's some of the that just gets on my nerves a lot, So, but yeah,
The
we're
only
probably
the only manager who doesn't fall into that category is Pep Guardiola, and that's why he is up in the position that he is. Because as soon as a player starts to lose any sort of utility to his system or his tactical system, it is a cold cut. It's not even and nothing. No matter what you've done for that shirt, or there's no heart that goes into it. Whereas you juxtapose that with what happened with Klopp and having Milner and Henderson stay a little bit longer than they should have, right? So.
No, and yeah, it's a good point. And I think Pep, when Pep does stick with someone, he pays him back big time. Not in 2 years, but and it's similar to I remember Gallardo. He stick with Nico de la Cruz for a few months when he was really not doing well, and paying him back big time. And that's what good managers do, obviously. Okay, Gui Pizzanelli, and I mean a lot of comments. So I want to address them. We're gonna address them a bit more briefly.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because we want to be, really extensive in our reply, because it's nice to talk about these things. But yeah, we're gonna want to get through all comments. So, how much is the long cycle preparation for World Cup going to flick with a 1 year timeline for Copa America? Well, I will go first on it. I think it's not gonna affect a lot or conflict a lot with it, because I think, and I kind of dislike this because it reminds me of Tavares a little bit, but I'm not saying it's the same. But the aim for Bielsa will be 2026, the World Cup. That's his big goal. But I don't want him to treat, and I'm sure he's not gonna, but I don't want him to treat the Copa America as inconvenience, as Tavares sometimes did. I mean, he came out with some quotes like really
Ooh.
that were bad,
That was the beginning. That was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, especially
in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. Especially about, I think it was the 2019,
2021.
Yeah, Kemi as well. That I mean, I'm not sure exactly what I comment, but that
We don't feel the obligation to win this tournament.
that's it. That's the one. I mean, Jesus, I think you're still having nightmares about that one sometimes, right? Or no?
No,
I mean,
because we're Uruguay.
yeah, obviously.
There's no other national team in the world that will ever walk into a tournament. I don't
Yeah.
give a damn what tournament it is, and we're not going to try and win it. Give me a break. That is just completely throwing away the history of this team.
And also the thing, I mean, we are a manager, certainly a top manager, and I mean, it's different in club football than international football. But I mean, the top managers in club football, I mean, it's not like the top managers think, "Oh, we want to win the Premier League." No, we want to have a cup. We want to have a deep cup run. We want to go far in Europe. We want that's what you want to do. And for a national team manager, it's not like you're gonna discard a tournament just because it's in the way of a preparation. And
It will help a lot. Sorry, go ahead, finish.
No, I agree. I agree with you. Yeah. I think it will help a lot as well, because sure, he's gonna see where his team is, in a year time, a year working with him, or a little bit more than a year. But I mean, this is a generation that wants to make their own story as well. Valverde, for example, Darwin, coming not in their prime yet, but I mean, they're well consolidated into the top of European football, and plenty of them. Matias Oliveira, also 25, 26, big player, or a big fullback in Italian football now after one season. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And
It's going to help a lot. I mean, these tournaments are really fundamental moments in which the team really gels because you're with the team, you're with your teammates for a sustained period of time, a month, 2 months, right? I mean, the core of that beautiful 2010, 2012 chemistry between all those players didn't form. I mean, it formed a bit in the adversity leading up to the South Africa World Cup, but it really formed at that South Africa World Cup and then carried over into the 2011 Copa America and then carried over again into the 2014 World Cup with a few players perhaps overstaying. But but I mean, this 1 year time, no, I don't think it's going to conflict. Especially, it won't conflict because of now there's less tension on the there's less need to get a result in the qualifiers as there used to be. But I think we'll see a balance. In my opinion, Bielsa will go in. He will pick a team that he thinks is very competitive and very strong. He will go out there and continue to try to implement his ideas. And you can walk and chew gum at the same time. And he can say to his players, okay, go out there and give 150%. We're going to play like this and we're going to compete to the last breath.
That's a nice expression. Walk and chew gum at the same time. I never heard that one.
Yeah.
Okay, no. But I think, yeah, you're absolutely right, or I believe so anyway. So yeah, it's yeah. I mean, probably he wants to. No, I'm going to the next comment because I'm going already. Yeah. But Jedi says Ugarte is a pressing machine. He always wins the ball. He's perfect for the Premier League. Yeah, I mean that's where we all, or at least I think myself and also Alessandro wanted to see him. But he started really well at Paris Saint-Germain. Like, and that's I think that's quite something because this is a midfield that was quite void of a leader. With Verratti not really be. I mean, I'm not sure if he's on his way out, but surely he's not started the season at the in the squad. Maybe it's an injury. I'm not that well informed on Paris Saint-Germain, but still, he got Gum in there in the midfield, and he basically became their leader in the first few games. Was their only or one of their only consistent, reliable performers. And now where Paris is like. Getting their players, Mbappe and Dembele now back to in the last two games, and also their signings coming in. It's interesting. It's interesting because although Paris is not where I want to see him for the rest of his career, there's a really talented group of players, and Ugarte surely is one of them. So yeah, and in this international break, we are gonna see him play both games. I'm sure of it.
This is his introduction to the national team is this upcoming.
For sure, because on the World Cup, did we see a minute? No, we didn't.
Nope.
So that was also one of the big things which annoyed all of us, I guess. So yeah. Jorge says, hi guys. Hey Jorge, good to see you here, man. What do you think of the chat Suarez with Lugano? Yeah, we briefly mentioned it, and yeah, it wasn't good, And I mean Lugano.
I'll come out and say it.
Sorry?
I'll come out and just say it very harshly that Lugano, Abreu made some comments that were really not too good recently regarding Suarez and Cavani in the national team. But Lugano in particular is proving himself to be more of a nuisance to the national team than a benefit. Your time has come and passed. Even knowingly extending an invite to Suarez, he knew what he was doing. He wants to push back on this. There is something. He's almost the way he's positioning himself. I wouldn't be surprised if Lugano decides to make a candidacy or provide a candidacy to become president of ALF at one point. Yeah. Because it's annoying me at this point. Because know your place. You had your time. I'm sorry. You won a Copa America. Great. You came fourth in the World Cup. That was. What are we? Almost 14 years ago. The distance between 1995 and 2011 and 2011 to now is almost identical. We're only 2 years apart from that difference. So time has passed. Thank you. Be the legend that you were. And we remember all the fond memories you gave us and the passion you gave us on the field. But this off the field nonsense, inviting Suarez to his program to bash a call up is just ridiculous.
No, I agree. And I mean, it's not the first example of Lugano being, not the best, how do you say? That's also one of the reasons why he's not really affiliated or associated with the national team, in any official role, because the stuff he comes out with sometimes is I mean, yeah, it divides opinion for sure. Although, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing when you get older, when you see players that you love when they were playing, you have to separate the player you saw and the personality that they become outside of football or inside football, but outside of being a player. But for me, I do quite well personally to separate these things, so I'm fine with that. But I can understand when sometimes people find this difficult for sure.
And I understand it's difficult for them too. I mean, something that
Yeah,
you find some sort of degree of ownership in, which is the national team. That should never be the case. The national team is always bigger than any of the names that represent it. Always. That includes anybody, Suarez, whoever. But in this case, no, he's conducting himself in a very poor manner. I mean, juxtapose that to Diego Perez, for example, who went off to Italy, was in Bologna doing his own thing, was quiet, wasn't really commenting too much on the national team, was just a supporter on the sidelines. He comes back into the national team mix. He goes to under 20. He becomes that motivator. And look at that. He's an integral coaching piece to the success that we saw recently last year with U20s.
yeah. No, good point. Yeah, just different personalities as well,
Yeah.
but these, I mean, Russo Perez, that's the thing, I think I think he's rejected the under 20 job, or has he now accepted it? I'm not sure.
No, he's back. He has
But
accepted.
yes, yeah, okay,
Yes.
there was, yeah, because there was some rumor that he rejected it first or he didn't want it, but
Mm.
that's great to see. That's great to see,
Mm.
yeah, okay, yeah, Jedi. I think, yeah, I mean, for some people that is a reason of why he's being targeted, and yeah, I think it's part of the reason. I'm not. There are many reasons, obviously, but
I think the three biggest ones, super quickly: one, he's Argentinian; two, he's doing things in the complete opposite
yeah,
direction, and it's a shakeup of literally the complete opposite of everything we're used to; and three, there's no love shown to anybody, regardless of what you've done for the national team.
yeah, and that's Alonso had gained some also briefly this one. Alonso gained a lot of credit because of the results he instantly got. But what people didn't like about Alonso as well is that there were. I mean, the information leaked towards the press was minimum,
Mm-hmm.
in the start. And on the Tabares, that used to be like always out in the open, and because the links were there, with the national team, with the coaching staff, but also like the people working in the AOF. Um, and now it's also probably gone.
They're all friends. If anybody wants an idea of how cozy those relationships used to be, go watch the documentary Tres Millones that came out on the South Africa run in 2010, and you literally see the press corps, members of ALF all having a barbecue and all intermingling with each other.
Right.
Oh, this and that, and intermingling with the players at practice and this and that. It was all one big sort of group circle of friends. And now this is what happens. We're dealing with the aftermath of separating that kind of connection.
No, that's a difficult one, and that's why the reaction from certain journalists is not. I mean, it's not. I mean, we don't want to see it, but it's not unnatural, obviously. Says it's Danny. I sent the lineup between. I will have a look because we're gonna talk about the games. Also, I just want to get through these comments a little bit, and then and sorry if I skip some, but I'm gonna try my best. But we will get into the games for like 15-20 minutes. Looking forward to the teams we are gonna face, the squads they called up, and how we are hopefully or how we think we're gonna fare. So maybe a score prediction, but don't base your bets on that. I would advise. So, who would Ten Hag start in the wing for Manchester United first? Is Doc or Pelistri? Yeah, I mean that's yeah. And for now, but the Anthony thing, which is going on now,
I
which
was just going to say that. Yeah.
you're not going to talk. It opens up an avenue for Pelistri. So let's see. I mean, for me, he should have gone. I think many of you guys also share this opinion because we're looking at it from the Uruguayan perspective. And I get what Ten Hag wants to keep him on. I mean, he wants squad depth, and the Champions League's coming up, the League Cup, the FA Cup, all of this. But that's why sometimes I believe that it's so important which agent you have and what kind of environment you have around you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they could have directed or guided him better in the last 2.5 years. So yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Suarez deserves respect. He's a national icon of the country. He's not so much. Yeah. I mean, that's completely true. But yeah. No, we discussed it largely, but yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. So I heard that Salazar was not called up because he's not played a lot this season for Braga, but Bielsa called up Cáceres and he only played one game in the last month and a half in Mexico. Yeah, I think I read about this from yourself, Danny, on Twitter. And yeah, I mean there are some inconsistencies in there, but
it's an unfair comparison because there was a necessity to really dig deep into center backs because of a lot of injuries and absences, whereas for midfield the positions were front and loaded. right?
That's true as well. That's true as well. But I mean, this is a comparison. It might be not that fair, but there are some other ones. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the way Bielsa handles these things. Because I know Bielsa a little bit, and I try to inform myself. But Bielsa might be a manager who obviously wants players to play, but who not has this much of an importance on it. It's not like it's
Hmm.
like so strict on it. So I'm not sure. But okay, you mentioned the leaked lineup now. Okay, but the thing is, because I'm now having in front of me sent on Twitter, and I want to mention obviously I'm gonna, but I just don't believe anything coming out of the press at the moment. So that's why, yeah. But okay, it's Nandes, Cáceres, Fina, Piqueres, Valverde, Ugarte, Pelistri, De La Cruz, Arajo, Darwin. So yeah, and he really seems to insist on Vinia playing through the middle at center back. Um, yeah, I mean,
And
I don't know.
And Vicino as well.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
he wasn't injured, he was there, and I mean that worries me to be honest. But
Oh yeah, your favorite at the heart of the defense.
come on,
The only thing standing between us conceding a goal and is
I mean that's shocking though, isn't it? But okay, we're not. I mean, we have gonna have to see and find out. But okay, just Winder higher says Satriano should have been there. Maxi Gomez hasn't scored a goal this season. Satriano hasn't either. So yeah, he could have been. No, just joking aside, Satriano is one for the future for sure, and someone who, when you look at the long term, is obviously a more logical inclusion than Maxi. But I don't think
not on
I don't
current
think
form.
both
Doesn't make
shouldn't be in
sense
there in my opinion. So yeah, but yeah, Gaston. Okay, yeah, okay,
to repeat.
yes. What is happening with Alvaro Rodriguez? Well, from what I understand is that he started the season with Real de Castilla again, who are playing in the third tier of Spanish football. So that's it. Um, what's your take on that, Alessandro? Because there was an option of him being going out on loan, but
Mm.
at the back end of last season, the talks were there, or the rumors were there that Ancelotti was gonna take him into account for the first team. But even with the squad depth or the attacking depth being not that great for Madrid at the moment, he's still not there.
I mean, there's a gap, and there's an argument to be made based on comments made by Ancelotti last season, and based on the little performance that he had against Atletico Madrid, that he should be up there on the bench. There's something behind the scenes that isn't sitting with me right, especially the decision to not call him up to the Under-20 World Cup, but then not
Yeah,
have him be part of the first team. I'm not sure what's going on. There's something that's just not sitting right with me there. And if they're going to continue to play around with a player like that, if I was the agent for that player, I'd recommend I'd seek a loan move or a move out within a year if things continue.
I agree. Low move would be ideal. Would have been ideal. There was talk of Espanyol. We're not playing the Segunda.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect environment for him to develop. Or anyway to be in a first team environment and to grow as a player. And because he was one of the stars of the under 20 of the Sudamericano.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he would have probably been one of the stars at the under 20 World Cup. So to keep playing at Real de Castilla, I'm not sure if that's the right move, but he's still young though. I think he's turned 19 like a few months
Yeah.
ago. So
Mm-hmm.
there's still time there, but yeah. Okay. It's definitely not merit based if Cáceres gets called up and he only played one game the last month and a half in Mexico. Yeah, I think reading about the selection of Bielsa and the way he wants his players to play, I think he just really likes Sebastian Cáceres. That's what I think he does. For me,
Is he good on the ball? I don't. This is a player I really don't know much about.
no, for me, it's a lot. I watched him in the friendlies, but before that, it's a long time. Long time ago, I watched him really generally, because at the end of 20 side, I remember him being quite good on the ball, and also, he's quite mobile. But then he went to Club America, and he's really not developed that well, becoming quite error prone, and yeah, so maybe he still has his qualities, but being at Club America after 4 or 5 years since he moved there is an indicator of that he's not, for me anyway, at the months of the national team.
Mm.
But
I
Yeah,
agree.
obviously the big one is Araujo and Josema missing. That's one, and hopefully some others like Boselli, Facundo Gonzalez, or Gaston Alvarez maybe soon having a chance because these
Sosa.
Sosa as well. Yeah, yeah. Who went to Croatia by the way. That's
Yeah.
that's an interesting move. Yeah. Okay, Jedi says if we don't support him, Bielsa, uh, he doesn't feel supported by the OF, he will resign. Yeah, I mean Bielsa is a peculiar individual, obviously, when it comes to this stuff. But so he, yeah, but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what to comment about this, but I think the support is there from the fans overall. But
That's why it's so important to have legacy players and figureheads who are represented in the media, like Lugano, for example, even if they don't internally believe that in their heart, but to come out and still issue statements of support,
yeah,
just so that everyone's on the same train to get the vibes right before, because a competitive ball hasn't even been kicked yet with Bielsa. So we got to
yeah,
see first, right? What are we all this noise? We haven't even seen a minute of the qualifier. Like,
no, no, absolutely. And I mean, you said you feel supported by the OF. And that's one thing, which is the OF is not a strong organization and it's not being led by strong individuals. For example, the president is someone who I just don't trust, and I don't believe in. So yeah,
they lack foresight. It's an organization that lacks the ability to plan for the long term. And this is the first
of
time I've
course.
I've seen in years, in 10 plus years, maybe since they even hired Tavares in 2006. I'm not sure how long term they were thinking that was going to be, but I'm sure South Africa, of course, obviously uh, made that be that we take Tavares basically to the grave. But at this point, this is the first big long-term roll of the dice that the organization has done. So stick with it. Our resolve is going to be tested, and our resilience is going to be tested tenfold, because the start to the qualifiers is not as easy as what it would be, as what it would usually be. We have Chile at home. Okay, that should be a win. We have Ecuador away,
Yeah,
Colombia away, Brazil at home, and then I think it's Argentina. So
yeah.
there's a possibility we come into the fifth game of the qualifiers, and the only points we've gotten is a win against Chile. So
No, no, it's a good point because yeah, there could be the reality that we have 3 points after 5 games, and
mhm.
for the OIF, it's that case just to stick with their decision.
I'd
Yeah.
rather qualify seventh or qualify sixth, the last direct qualification spot. I'd rather qualify through that if it means that we've developed something over time and a solid base that will really work in the World Cup. I don't care. Coming first, second, third in the qualifiers doesn't make a difference.
Not a lot, no. This is a good follow-up point from Group Pisanelli, who asked or who asked the question earlier about the
Mm.
conflict between the Copa and the World Cup cycle. Um, so yeah, I don't mean that they'll discard the Copa, but if it's going to exclude the best players now because they want to be good in 3 years, is that going to affect things in 1 year? It's a good point. It's a really good point, I believe, and um, yeah, we're gonna have to see. But the thing is with this, which makes me more positive, is that a lot of our players that currently are not being called up, or a few of them anyway, who are at the perfect age for Bailas as well, will be in this team in his best side, And I like Coates, but if Josema and Araujo are fit, they play. Although I like Coates a lot, so that's not a big deal anyway for me. I mean, it's a big deal if Quad's not there because I kind of miss him already. But it's I can understand where he's coming from, and I don't think it's gonna affect us largely. But the point is valid, If you have like a Torreira or for example playing really well, it was 27 and this season and he, for example, Galatasaray go to the quarterfinals in the Champions League and
in
even
what world does that happen?
yeah, I know,
Go
I
ahead.
know.
Sorry.
But it would be kind of mad to not call him up because Torreira, even though not as a starter, because Ugarte will probably be in a position, is still. I mean, he's a Uruguay international for me. Still is, by the way. So that's weird. So I get your point, the point that you're making, that there can be a conflict between these two things. And I think we're gonna just gonna have to find out how this is gonna pan out.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's cutting players. He's going to be cut by the time we get to the Copa America. He'll have a much better sense of what this core of the national team is going to be, and
yeah,
then outside of that core, there'll probably be 7 to 8 spots, which will be the contested spots as there usually is, more so now than ever before. But I don't think. Yeah, no, I agree. Like it is a good point to make. Like, will it have an effect? And that's something I really don't have the answer to right at this moment.
yeah. Say says we should be aiming to win every tournament. We are one of the top three most successful national teams in the history of the sport. Well, I mean, can I give a favorite to this? Yeah, I can. I'm not sure. Yeah, or yeah, I've done. No, yeah. I mean, that's the spirit you should all have. Obviously, a spirit that has been lost a little bit in the last few years. But yeah, um, we should for sure be aiming for that. We should be competing, and that's why I think I would briefly mention the conversation I had with Diego Montafan, which I referred to earlier, is that he said to me, "What are you expecting from Uruguay? What do you want from Uruguay in terms of the qualification on what position?" And I said, I mean, with all respect to Peru and Colombia and Ecuador, I want Uruguay to leave that pack again and to go up to Argentina and Brazil, because for a long time we've been in that pack while our national team was capable of a lot more. And I'm not saying challenge with Argentina and Brazil straight away, because Argentina are in a brilliant moment, comparing to the last 20 years basically. But you should be aiming to get up there again, and that's why I think. Sorry to I just keep
Look, keep going, keep going.
sorry. And just the third is the minimum for me. But having said that, and also having heard to you speaking, is that it's going to be a process. So yeah, we are going to have to see. But we should be aiming up. That's what I'm basically trying to say. Yeah.
No, no, you've nailed it. I mean, listen, there's only been 3 teams in South America historically, and they're the only 3 teams that have ever even touched a World Cup trophy in their history, and that's Uruguay, Brazil, and Argentina. That's just the reality, and I think that's how the reality is going to be for the rest of our lives. And I hope I didn't jinx anything there. Let me knock on wood. But what I was going to say is that, I mean, there's actually, I think, an opening for the next Copa America, and I'll say this with 2 reasons. Number one, world teams that win the World Cup have a little bit of a complacency dip, a little bit following the World Cup. I'm very interested to see what Argentina's competitive form is going to be, because Argentina's all, they're in the heavens. They don't care. Everything's perfect. But Spain went on a bit of a bad run after they won the World Cup. Yeah. I know, albeit mostly in European qualifiers and international friendlies, because they obviously went on to win Euro 2012 and got everything together. But that required some changes and tinkering. For example, Cesc Fabregas as a false 9. That was, anyways, we'll get into that. But so they didn't play exactly the same. There was a bit of transition. But in this case, Argentina, if they play the exact same thing, I think it won't be as easy as like they're going to walk to the Copa America as everybody would expect them to do. And Brazil, I think Brazil there's an opening in the sense that Brazil right now don't have an interim coach, which means that they're not really building towards anything, and they're waiting for Ancelotti to take over the national team for the Copa America. And so for a coach like Ancelotti to come straight from Real Madrid to the Copa America, there's just going to be some weird transition time. So Brazil will be going into the Copa America based on talent and what's on paper alone, as opposed to having a tactical national team setup and way of playing like they did previously for so many years under, what is it, the coach's name that just
Diniz. From Brazil, you mean now? The
current no, the one who just stopped in the last World Cup. Tite. Sorry, that was escaping me. Right, you great coach, one of the best coaches, most underrated coaches in the last 10 years, in my opinion. But yeah, no. So I think there could be an opening for Uruguay.
No, I think Tite is a brilliant coach as well, but he is quite pragmatic though. And what the ones coming in now, Diniz, he's going back to the core of Brazilian football in the way he approached the game. So, but what you're saying, I do agree with. It's a transition, but it's a transition to nowhere still. Because they're not sure what's going to come. And with Argentina, they won the World Cup. A fair play to them, but it's not like this is not a team that is like untouchable, like some of the World Cup teams that so they are there to be get at.
That's a great point, because of all I'm thinking the last winners: France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Brazil. So up until all the way 2002, because 98 France was a bit of a shock. Brazil were expected to win; they were favorites on paper to win that game. All those World Cup winners, as you said, those are teams that were almost untouchable. But this Argentina team got to the World Cup final and won the World Cup with a sense of vulnerability to them, with
Yeah.
a struggle. With it wasn't like we came in and dominated every game.
No.
So you're right about that. You're right.
No, I do agree with what you're saying. The thing they did, they brilliantly, they rise to the occasion every time. That's the thing that they brilliantly. But yeah, there's still, I mean, there's a chance there for sure. Uh, Uruguay just have to arrive at a tournament having the belief of going all the way. And sometimes the talk was there, but the way we played, and yeah, wasn't there.
We might be entering the longest drought in Copa America history for Uruguay of not winning a tournament. I would like to fact check if anyone wants to fact check that.
I'm gonna quickly do this now, but
Yeah,
you
I'm thinking right now.
you can have a look at this comment. I'm not sure. Do you have you followed this Dylan Dennis thing or no?
Oh yes, oh yes, I did see
So
that. Yeah,
I followed a little bit, and so I mean it comes in my for you tab, with Twitter, and then like I think it's 2 days ago, I saw this photo of Diego Forlán with this, and I just had to laugh, and so it's funny that now. Let's have a look. Timber time. It comes up with it, but yeah, it made me laugh. Yeah, it was really random.
that's an old picture, right?
Yeah, I mean, it
That's an
was like
old picture.
yeah, it was like
Yes,
maybe even before the World Cup, or maybe a little bit after.
before the which World Cup?
The 2010, sorry, the 2010
2010.
one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say Forlan looked significantly younger,
Yeah.
and he was also a married man in the last World Cup. So I really hope he's not around.
Okay, so just gonna switch back to another question, and then okay, maybe this one, and I'm gonna check quickly about um, on the drought in the past. So 1942 until 1956 is the one I see now, the longest. Then I scroll a little bit further, is 1995 until 2011, and now obviously we're 2011 till 2024. So let's quickly, it's 13 years is we currently on, or 12, or 12 at the moment,
Around
but
there.
13 when we get there, and then it's okay, 16 is the one before. So yeah, still a little bit to go, but yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there, and I mean it's not a good one, obviously, and that's the thing, which I will be a bit sad about, is that there were plenty of opportunities in the last few years to win a Copa America. That's the thing.
With you're 100% right. So we're around the second longest or third longest drought.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're overdue. That's the point. We're overdue.
No, but I mean, and we don't want to reach this kind of historical feats in a negative way. Then so okay, Loco doesn't have enough time on the training field just yet to implement this, at least to the players who need to be patient. No, that's a good point, because I think we mentioned it briefly before on this stream. It's impossible for him to do this. Certainly the way he wants to see his players play, and how it's so detailed, and it needs a lot of work. So that's why he's also working on them when they're not on the national team duty, with their coaching and their tips, advice. But to have a team on the field and work with them for a few days, that's obviously way more valuable. So yeah, okay. I'm going to switch a little bit now and look at the games. Over an hour, probably going on for 20, 25 more minutes. Really appreciate all of you being here, by the way, with the comments, or even if you just watching along. I really appreciate it. And if you want, like the video, you can follow me, obviously, on the Uruguayan Heroes YouTube channel, or Twitter channel, or Twitter account. And Alessandro, I think it's Fina Alessandro, and then one, and I put it in the description below as well. So yeah, just to keep in contact and just talk about Uruguay, whatever, so you can see us on Twitter. Yeah. Okay, so first off, the Chile game. I went to the squad before the stream, and I the thing is, the big names, or the big names from the past, or still the big names now, which is quite telling, are still there. But I also see some youngsters. The only thing is that aside from someone, I think it's Dario Osorio, who went to Midtjylland, where Emiliano Martinez plays. They're not really prominent, they're not well known. A lot of them are playing in Chile, and that shouldn't say that they are not talented or they can become a good player, but it's true that they have a lot of difficulty with this recambio, with this generational shift. And that's why players like Alexis and Fidal, who are, Alexis still in Europe, Fidal in Brazil, are still there and are still expecting to start on
Wow,
Friday.
that's crazy. That's a crazy thought. And Medel's in there too.
Yeah, I saw as well. And I mean, for example, I mean, Maripan is someone who's been part of that, and he's in a good age, you know. But all these players that you know who play for Chile for years and years. I mean, Boshashur is not there anymore, for example. But you get what I'm saying. A lot of these players are still there, and
Chile's in a weird place. I don't know if they're building towards anything. I haven't heard anything. They have
no,
players, and their performances in recent under youth tournaments have been subpar.
yeah, that's the thing, you know. But from judging from the squad, they are trying now to make it happen because a lot of young players, most of them playing still in the domestic league in Chile. So, but it's gonna be interesting to see. But Uruguay, obviously, playing at home at the Centenario, I mean, it should be a lot less, a lot more convincing for me. I'm not saying we are gonna have to win 4 or 5-0, but it's gonna have to be a lot more convincing than the 2-1 back in 2019, I think it was, or 2020,
2020, the Maxi
when Maxi
Gomez
Gomez
winner,
scored the last. I mean, he's still there, so who knows? But
November 2020. Yeah,
yeah, that's a good memory, man. But I mean, no, that's. I mean, we hope for something different. But mind you, even though the stadiums were empty back then, it's not going to be packed this time
well,
around,
it'll be close to empty anyways.
judging from the reports. So, and that's also one thing that's being, how do you say, brought up in the press and as a talking point, which is a talking point, obviously. But yeah, Alessandro, for you, when you look at this game, I'm not gonna ask you for a starting 11, but what are you expecting from this in terms of little bit,
Performance.
yeah, performance, but also the personnel a little bit. But what do you expect from this performance, and how what are your expectations for like what will be acceptable?
I think we'll see somewhat of a back three setup, maybe. I think we'll see awkwardness in that players will try to be implementing ideas that they don't are not really familiar with.
Yeah,
Awkwardness from the fans to the national team because we are now completely doing a U-turn on how we're going to play and the style of play and how we're going to try to impose ourselves in games. It's going to be something we've never seen before, so it's going to be awkwardness. I think we should Chile of the first four games. Chile is the most accessible on paper. I think we should beat them. I don't think we're going to smash them 4 or 5-0. I think we beat them 2-1. And then something about Bielsa's teams as well is they're not the most, tight ships at the back either. I mean, look at Leeds in the Premier League, right? They leak goals like crazy. So I expect to concede on Friday, but I also expect to score a couple goals. So I think 2-1, we win 2-1 or 3-1.
okay, yeah. No, it's true. I mean, this defense is gonna play. I mean,
It's
maybe they played a
it's
little
not
bit.
looking good.
No, it's not really good. And also, I mean, besides the quality, it's the familiarity between them is not great as well. So that's going to be challenging. Ugarte being in front of the defense is going to help a lot. But we also have going to realize, we're going to have to, realize that we're not even sure who's going to start between the sticks. And okay, maybe it will be Rochette, and he absolutely deserves it, because I mean he's been brilliant for
Mhm.
Internacional, but he's also not of this. He's not the perfect profile of a Bielsa goalkeeper as well,
He's
because
not. No, he's awkward with his feet.
he really is. So yeah, a lot of question marks on
I just had the flashback from the World Cup, the opening game
yeah,
against Korea. In the last few moments of that game, he gave away the ball.
no, but the whole tournament, you could
Yeah,
see it, and that's the thing, that's what I said earlier, and I think you said as well, is that we got Bielsa, and now we really have to trust him, and also really go along with the way you want to play. But for me, I underestimated the lack of flexibility he had when it comes to his way of playing, because I wasn't unfamiliar with him, but I didn't know him that well. So, but now going to realize this, it's gonna create some conflict for me, but we're gonna have to go along with it, because it's better for sure than now to like criticize him to that and then to cut him off 5-6 games because of the pressure that's coming from outside. That's not helping anything, because
Mhm.
who are you gonna get then? So that's, for me, is not an option anyway. So yeah, the Chile game, I mean, 2-1, 3-1, you said. Yeah, I think we're gonna go see it as well. I think so. Yeah, but I hope to see some goals, some excitement. I mean, I'm not expecting to see a lot of patterns yet. Maybe you're gonna see a little bit of an indication to how we're gonna play or how Bielsa wants to play. But I just want to see some exciting football because that's what we're all longing for on our Bielsa for sure. And whether how good it is or how competitive Uruguay are gonna get, certainly against the big teams, I think we're gonna have to wait out a little bit on this and to judge Bielsa on this. But exciting football is what we want to see for sure, and hopefully we're gonna see it. Um, yeah. Okay, the Ecuador game is a more difficult one, obviously away in Quito. Against a team, yeah, they did not pass the group stages, just like us, but it's a different story. The excitement on the Ecuador team is different. Um, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I looked at the squad, and the obviously one is obviously Moses Caicedo right now. Um, but then I saw, and I did see it a few days ago as well, is that Kendry Paez, the 16-year-old who obviously has signed for Chelsea already, is also in the squad. And the interesting with this squad is it's obviously really young. They have some veterans there, obviously the captain Ener Valencia, but overall it's quite a young side. But it was also for quite a few years now has played together because the last qualifying campaign, many of these names there, also the young players were together as well. So there's a really good unity in this team. And also, obviously, at the height of Quito, it's always a challenge. I think, sorry, it's 4-2 was last time around.
It was 4-2. We were
Suarez-
down. We were down. I think 4-1 or
Yeah,
4 no or 4-0. We were down 4-0, and then Suarez got 2 penalties.
I think that was yeah. I mean, Suarez. I mean, the penalty saved him in that qualifying campaign because he even got to the top ranking almost. I think, but Mauricio Lemos, I think he played that game. Oh no, sorry, Rano Tarajo.
He did play like that. That was
Yeah.
Tavares' first start, and
Yeah.
Tavares always used to do that. He used to put some young player
Yeah.
under the fire. He did the same thing with Jorge
He really did.
too. But
He really did. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what kind of Uruguay shows up there. Together result that will be a big plus.
Ecuador is interesting though, because they have a new coach.
That's true. Yeah, no, that's true. Now you mention it. Yeah, I almost forgot that. By the way, yeah, no,
But they have a good unity. They have a good team culture and a good core of the team that's carried over from their very successful under 20 Sudamericano, which they won. And then they also took that core and implemented a very strong qualifier campaign where they were getting results outside of of Quito, which has always been Ecuador's biggest deficiency in World Cup qualifiers. But something else I will say, and then they were unlucky, in my opinion, to get out of the group in Qatar in 2022, just by a hair. But no, Ecuador is a very good team. And something else as well is Ecuador is going to be the team of the 10 in the qualifiers with the most urgency and the most need to win games because they are starting with a point deduction over what happened with Castillo, Byron Castillo, who was the controversial player.
I completely forgot this. I remember back then that I remember it when I first. That was before the World Cup already, right? Or no?
It was before the World Cup, and Chile were lodging a complaint as the sore losers as they are. They thought they had some sort of say to get into the World Cup. Doesn't matter if they got to the World Cup anyways; they would have just been there for numbers.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, Ecuador is going to come with desperation. I honestly think we're going to lose the game on Quito. I don't see anything. If we go and we're going to try to play Bielsa ball in the heat, in the altitude in Quito, we'll lose. We will lose right away. There are certain qualification matches where I think as a coach, and I'm not sure how flexible Bielsa is going to be in this regard, given what's happened so far. I doubt it. In which there are certain qualification games, Bolivia away, Ecuador away, even Colombia away to a certain degree, no pun intended degree, that the heat is so much, the conditions are so much that you kind of have to sacrifice your tactical setup, and it's basically just survival at certain points of the game. And so we'll see on Tuesday if that's going to be the case for Uruguay.
Yeah, that's a good point. The way how is Bielsa going to cope with that? Is he going to take this into account or just disregard it? Yeah, I think a loss there. It's not the end of the world, but once again, I remember the game against Colombia in Barranquilla, I think in 2016, when Uruguay had quite a good fight back and draw the game. That's an acceptable result. Regardless, obviously, I mean, think that was even quite a long time ago that Uruguay achieved a draw there. But even if you lose there with such a game, that's something you can work with. So that's what I hope to see. But we have been way too used to see like these big results away in Bolivia, or even in Bolivia, in Ecuador and in Colombia, and also in Brazil and Argentina, obviously.
We've been blown out, and we got blown out by Colombia in the lead up to 2014.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that was probably one. I remember the FIFA did some profile of every team, and I remember the Uruguay one, and because obviously back then I wasn't that well into the Uruguayan football. I remember this game 4-0 against Colombia, sawing this just being absolutely murdered.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
it wasn't even close. I think in like the opening 2 minutes, Palito Pereira gave away the ball. Someone went through Lugano, and it just went in, and it was just a disaster. And then there was, I mean, Uruguay did beat them in 2020.
No, that's true. Yeah, I see another comment.
But that was a very, very poor Colombia side.
Yeah,
Very poor Colombia side.
no, the one I referred to obviously was in the 2018 cycle, but the 2020.
Yes, the October 2016, we were losing 1-0. Then Cebolla got the header out the free kick. And then I think we went up 2-1. I think Godin sent a long ball. Stuani played it down. Suarez with one of the best finishes I've
I remember the second goal. I remembered obviously, but your memory is on point today.
No, the Uruguay games are just implanted in my. It's like in a file in my memory where I can just pull.
And also it was really. I mean, it was obviously always the heat there, but it was raining. I think
it was raining. It was, and Yerry Mina scored 2-2. We tied the game.
No, but the goal with Suarez, the thing was that was just a classic Suarez finish. That was the brilliant thing about it.
He does the body thing where he goes like this. Yerry Mina's on the floor, and then from that angle, you're thinking, okay, most strikers are going to touch it inside and then try to. He hits it one time. Ospina looks, it's in the net.
No, it's really just next to the post. That
I get chills thinking of. I remember I celebrated that goal very hard.
Yeah, these goals are just amazing. That's like, yeah. No, okay. So two really interesting games. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the kind of teams he's gonna field, the way we're gonna play. And I mean, even though it's a completely different environment now, watching Uruguay play is always great. So that's and Darwin wearing the number 9 for the first time. That's also a big thing. Valverde probably gonna captain Uruguay for the first time in the qualifiers. Obviously, did it in some friendlies, but in the qualifiers now, that's also a big thing. And he's the footballing leader. I mean, Bentancur is a good shout, but at the moment, Valverde is going to be the footballing leader of that team.
Well, Bentancur's not there.
Sorry?
Bentancur's not there. That's why. Yeah.
No, for sure, absolutely. But I mean, Bentancur, we hope he's going to be back soon. But with him being out, Valverde is obviously the undisputed footballing leader of the team right now. So yeah, I mean, I think this responsibility for him and also for Darwin as the number 9, it's going to be really interesting to see.
He's the most capped player in the squad currently, Valverde and someone else. I read this. I'm not sure who.
Yeah, I think Valverde. I think now both he tweeted something about this. Valverde. I can quickly because I overhead this in front of me, the page. So Valverde and Nandes, it is.
Nandes, yes, that's right. I forgot.
49, yeah.
Yeah,
and yeah, the goal tally, combined goal tally is 20. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
We'll see. There's something very interesting that came out of the whole thing. They said that Darwin Núñez asked Suarez to use use the 9 in the qualifiers. I believe they hope those two have a good relationship. I don't believe any of the Twitter nonsense where they say that Suarez disrespected Núñez. I don't believe any of that. But I think Rocher made a comment and said that, or someone made a comment and said that Suarez's absence, or Suarez and Cavani's absence, was something talked about because all these players have a WhatsApp group chat together. Was something talked about in that group chat. So this is something addressed by the players in that group chat. So it makes me think also, like, I've watched the interviews of when they come back into training just a couple of days ago or yesterday, Valverde and Darwin Núñez, very careful with their words as well. which is good. That's they're doing a good thing, but it's just I find it very interesting that it's something that they've addressed as players.
No, it's good that you watch these interviews because sometimes, because obviously we're all busy, obviously, but when you look at it in social media or sometimes in articles, it's so misrepresented what they said. And also with the Darwin thing, when he talked about, yeah, when I asked him about the nine, but when you watch and you get some impression, or I wanted the nine, I asked him of him, but that was everything, which was quoted on like what you saw in some stories. But when you look at the full quotes, it's so gives such a better context or idea of what the feeling of Darwin was, what his kind of demeanor was, and all this. So it's really important to do this, and I try to keep doing this still because you get really you get down to some paths which really are not the paths you want to be on because you're misguided basically.
It's a media problem and media misguiding and misinformation, and
No, it's nothing new, obviously. I know, but
nothing exclusive to us. It's an international problem.
yeah, no, but it's for me, it's a bit sad when it comes to this Darwin Suarez thing. When it comes to like domestic media, which obviously you want to sell clicks. I know this, but when I gain clicks, but it's a bit annoying. But yeah, okay. So we go on now almost for 90 minutes. Appreciate all of you stopping by here and getting in some comments. I'm gonna have a look at what we're gonna do with the games, how we're gonna do it around these games, also how we are both time wise. But if we can do something, we're surely gonna do it, and maybe look into the possibility of getting someone on there as well, someone different to have a say. But I will get back to you on this after we find this out.
Yeah.
So obviously Friday, yeah, to you as well. I mean, so Friday the game. I mean, what time is it? For me, it's this is a good time, or good could be better. It's I think it's 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. Sorry, 1 a.m.
1 a.m. Let's see. The game on Friday will be 7 o'clock my time. On Tuesday will be 5 o'clock my time.
Okay, yeah. What is I mean, that's for you. Pretty good, right? I guess
that's good. Yeah, that's good. Works.
Yeah.
After work and school.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. No, so I mean, gonna be. And by the way, in Canada, how is? Or are you in US now or Canada?
Canada.
Okay, sorry. So what are the streaming, or what's the streaming like now? Because I heard from someone, from my some follower in Australia, that he didn't really know where to watch it because it wasn't sorted out yet.
I do not use any illegal streaming. I don't do that. I find the game on the internet legally. Do what you will with that information, because I'm away at home. In my family house with my parents. I'm away currently at school where I work and study.
Yeah.
At home we have all the channels. We have that through TV, through cable, so we're able to watch that. But when I am away from home, it's difficult because none of the Canadian or North American broadcasters. I think there's a streaming service that has the game. I can't remember what the streaming service is called, but there's a special streaming service for South American qualifiers. I'm almost certain of it.
Okay. And I see Danny is also in the chat that AUF is selling the game.
I'm not giving them my money.
No, I'm not either. Because I'm not gonna do that. But what I mean, I'm quickly. But what I had last year, I had like a TV, like a how do you say? I don't know how to say it in English. I don't know. So
a monitor, a mini TV, or
but it was like I'm just gonna I had something and I could receive TV channels from all around the world. So then I would basically go on SofaScore. This app.
Yeah.
This was brilliant, and you could see for every country which channels were broadcasting it. So I would just go on to one of the channel, either if it wasn't in Russia or Brazil, whatever, and just watch the game. And it was 1 minute delay, which is obviously a pain in the ass, but that's the way I did it. So now I'm gonna have to inform, but it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. But
is it not? So it's not working anymore for you, or?
No. So the person I had contact with to sort this out.
Mm-hmm.
I had his number, but I still have his number, but he doesn't reply. So I cannot renew it. So this is a guy who's living at the other side of the country as well. So it's not like I'm gonna go across and and sort it out. But yeah, but I will find.
I'm curious if they're showing the game in any of the local channels in Uruguay, and I know that it is usually the provider for qualifiers, or whether it's exclusively AUF TV, and then they're going to actually have the gall to
That would be
try and charge
criminal,
people.
right?
That would be ridiculous. If
Because
that's the
for
case.
back here, I mean, I don't watch the Netherlands games, but every Netherlands game is free to watch. That's always been the way since I was born. Obviously,
Mhm.
the domestic leagues and the top leagues abroad, yeah, they are this streaming channel, these paid channels. You have to pay for it for the subscription, but the games of the national team should always be free, in my opinion, anyway.
No, I agree. Anybody in North America, it's Fanatis. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is the streaming service? I heard
Yeah,
it's really expensive though. Is the
yeah,
streaming
no,
service? Yeah, there you go. Right there. Yeah, that
no,
is
I
showing the
heard as
game.
well. I think it's expensive as well, but yeah, obviously there are these kind of sites. We're not gonna mention them, but yeah, these are there as well. But the thing with that is it's cutting off and you miss something. It's not ideal when you watch the Uruguay game. So yeah, I mean, best of luck for everyone or anyone who having these problems. I mean, we can please on Twitter. I try to help everyone out. The thing is, and we all know is I cannot. I'm not sure how Elon Musk is on this regard, but the posting of illegal streams, it's used to be something that you could get.
It's free.
Um,
Hey, it's free speech.
yeah, you
And
would
Elon Musk is a big free speech.
yeah. But I've seen people being how do you say suspended for it. So
Mm.
I try to be wary of it, especially with my history of being suspended. So so yeah. But okay. So once again, thanks for everyone being here. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully we have been like a good addition to your day. So yeah, and hopefully to see you again as well. Alessandro, thank you, man. Really
Pleasure
appreciate
as always.
it. And yeah, I mean, if we don't see you before the game, hopefully you can all enjoy the game. But we will surely speak with you on Twitter. Uruguay Heroes, Fini Alessandro. You can both follow us on there. And see you very soon. Bye bye.
See everybody.